Hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Movies That I Will Never See. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about movies from an entire company. Yes, a company that manages to put out the worst of the worst of the worst in the comedy business. I'm, of course, referring to Happy Madison Productions. And to be honest, I have actually seen at least one of their movies. I think I've seen most of Bedtime Stories, but it was so horrible that I just didn't want to see any more. And my family has seen multiple different movies from the company itself. And you obviously cannot talk about these movies or this company without talking about the founders of this company, which is like Adam Sandler and all of his comedy friends, who basically decided to put this production company together so they can make a lot of movies together. And I can pretty much figure out why so many of his movies fail. Because Adam Sandler got his start, or at least he rose to his prime, using Saturday Night Live. And the thing about Saturday Night Live is that when he was on that show, he had a lot of writers surrounding him and a lot of other talented actors surrounding him. And that's why the skits that he performed on the show were as good as they could be. I mean, I haven't really been able to watch any of his skits outside of the Hanukkah song. But I know that when he was on the show, he was a pretty good actor and was a pretty good comedian on the show. It's just that when it comes to his movies, even when he was starting out, from what I can tell, his style of humor works well in like stand-up comedy and in short sketches, but when it comes to long-length movies, there's a problem to where, yes, he can have funny jokes, but when you think about the characters and the overlying storylines, no. But then there's the problem to where with his production company, things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And the biggest problem with the company is that they make too many movies with just too many of just like Adam Sandler's friends, and all of them suffer the same problems. They're all extremely juvenile and extremely poorly written as movies. And I don't want any part of it. I've already seen many different people talk about all of his movies, and after seeing just one movie by itself, Bedtime Stories, it was already so awful. I don't want to get any worse, because if Bedtime Stories is considered to be one of the lesser awful movies, actually no, I'm wrong. I have seen another one of that company's movies. I've seen Click, and I didn't really like Click. So add that to the list. Ugh. So, I really wish that Happy Madison were to be more involved with television rather than actually making movies. Because, or at least I wish that Adam Sandler would be more of a television actor than a film actor. Because I feel like that he'd be better as like a sitcom actor or something rather than as a film studio star. And the fate of the Happy Madison films is that nowadays, like, they signed a Netflix deal to where 4 movies are being released straight through that streaming website. And I've heard that the films only continue to get worse when they're released through there, but at least they're finally out of theaters, and no one has to pay money to go see it with a large group of people anymore, like movies are usually seen. So that's probably a good thing, or a bad thing, who knows. So, you have yourself Adam Sandler, he's like the main focus of the company, and I feel like that, of course he can be funny, but so many of his movies are just not movies, and they're just full of a bunch of random scenes, which represents the worst of comedy. You have that, and then you have movies that don't focus on him, that can feature talented people, but then just ruin them. Or feature people who are just not fit for movies. Or, yeah. I mean, when it comes to Kevin James, I think he's like suited best maybe for a sitcom actor, because I think that King of Queens is an okay show. At least I haven't seen much of it. I've heard it's an okay show. Or at least if it's not that good, then apparently it's not the worst either. But he has people surrounding him, of course. And then you have what I think is one of the worst comedians of all time, who is popular, Rob Schneider. And it never hit me how bad Rob Schneider was until I watched the show Rob when it first came out. Me and my family hated the show. And when I brought it up years later, they were like, "Oh, yeah." I can't even remember most of that. Yes. And Rob Schneider's a living meme now because of South Park and the fact that he was in Norm of the North, which is an easy punchable target for anybody who wants to just be mean towards a movie. So, actually, I have heard that having Madison at their best, they wind up making movies that are more dramas than actual comedies, and that they're actually made decently. It's like something like Reign Over Me or Funny People. I think those are Happy Madison movies. But those movies weren't successful at the box office because they weren't marketed well, and their built-in fan base is made up of people who only like this type of random humor, who won't like anything else. And actually, I think when it comes to Sandler's movies, I've seen The Wedding Singer and Happy Gilmore, and I think Happy Gilmore's okay, but when it comes to The Wedding Singer, that's his closest to being a actual comedy. I mean, it's like, I thought it was funny when I watched it. It has a lot of funny scenes, and there's a story there that is consistent, despite it still not being a good story. So, like, if you like Adam Sandler's comedy, start with that one, because you really have to start with the best. Don't start with the worst, unless you're really, really curious. I mean, it's kind of depressing when you have someone like my brother. He claimed that he liked Jack and Jill when he first saw it, but then he saw it a second time and then absolutely hated it. I mean, that's a very bad effect. And he didn't even see the movie like the second time within a large time span. It was just when he saw it the second time, he picked up on so many different things to where it's like, oh my god, there's nothing. No. And there are no arguments for making Jack and Jill work. I thought back then, I was like, what if you had an actress that looks like Adam Sandler playing this sister? And I was like, no, if she's still given that terrible script, it's not going to do anything. No favors. Ugh. So, Happy Madison is a company. They've made, I think, at least 30 films. It would take forever to watch their entire catalog to review them as a company, and a lot of people already have, like, over the years, and I want no part of it. I just want those movies to disappear, just like a lot of other terrible comedies and a lot of other terrible movies. Because once you start ignoring something and it's not popular anymore, it fades away, which should be the fate of these movies. There are a few diamonds in the rough every once in a while, or a few decently made movies from the company, but it looks like that they're never, ever, ever going to get better, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. I mean, I can't imagine what's going to happen after their Netflix deal is over, or maybe it'll be kept going forever, and they'll just be kept alive through their Netflix watchers, because they're so ingrained into that account. If The Ridiculous Six can be the most viewed Netflix movie ever, just because it was released exclusively there first, and the Sandler watchers like, oh god, get to Netflix now. Yep. That's not a good sign. And, I mean, when it comes to what's funny, there's a lot of subjectivity to it. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't find funny, and there are things that I do find funny. And there's stuff that I found funny when I was a teenager that I don't find funny now. I made an entire video talking about why I enjoyed the Fred videos much long ago. But just appealing to nothing but subjectivity and using no sense of actual structure in your movie as a comedy can be one of the biggest crimes you can be as a movie. So, my recommendation is that watch Adam Sandler on Saturday Night Live, because that's when he actually had quality control in his humor, and it's where his form of brand of humor actually belonged, in sketch videos, not in movies. If you actually want to try watching his movies, be my guest, but start with The Wedding Singer, maybe Happy Gilmore, you might get something out of that, and maybe some of his serious dramas. Or watch the movie Punch Drunk Love, because that wasn't made by Happy Madison. It was made by an actual filmmaker that just hired Sandler as an actor. It's not the best of movies, but it's definitely one of his best made films. So there you go. I've had enough about this. Good night, everyone.